बताता हूँ इब्ने बताता هل تفضل أن
ترتاح؟ نعم، أنا أفضل أن أرتاح. شكرا جزيلا.
هادي بسم الله.
I want their leader brought here. I want him brought to me. I want the revolution crushed.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Mad Mamluks. My name is Sim. Along with me are my co-hosts, Sheikh Amir.
Assalamu alaikum.
And our newly appointed co-host, Brother Imam. Welcome to the show.
The Imam of the Mamluks.
Sheikh, what are you drawing there?
Just doodle, when I'm trying to think of stuff. But forget about my personal life.
Cartoons, رسوم متحركة.
Wow, this guy's coming out guns blazing. He's learning Arabic on his own for like the past 8 months and he's coming out guns blazing. MashaAllah. Yeah. He's got like 8 apps that he learns Arabic from.
Yeah.
MashaAllah.
I saw a YouTube video about a guy who's practicing his Arabic with ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Snap.
That's why it actually brought Duolingo and other apps that are listed in the app market, their value down because ChatGPT is so well versed in creating language learning lessons for
I
people.
Never thought of that on a language level.
Yeah, because now the new version of ChatGPT, you can talk to it. So you can just tell ChatGPT, "Hey, I'm a grade 3 level Arabic speaker. I'm trying to learn how to converse. Can you teach me how to converse?"
Not that it matters too much for learning a new language, but is it paid, that version, the one that talks to you?
It's a paid version. It's $20 a month or something.
Yeah. And you could just converse in it.
Yeah.
Language however you want. It's going to teach you for $20 a month.
$20 a month.
Actually, any language you want.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, that's so worth it.
It's going to put out a lot of people already out of business.
Dang, I hate promoting something we're not going to make money off of. But.
Well, the thing is, one of the cool things, at least with having a teacher, especially with Arabic, I don't know about other languages, there's just things in English you would think, like, for example, the word is. It's implied when you're learning Arabic. Like, there's no actual word or indication that there is a is there, but it's there.
It's embedded, yeah.
It's embedded. And so, like, there's many things like that in Arabic that you don't know until you start learning it. And when you have an instructor there who can clarify some of these little nuances where your mind is looking for and is there, but it's not there.
Yeah.
And a real life instructor can. I'm not saying ChatGPT can't do that. It would just, there's natural things that happen in conversation where you can ask the teacher or say, hey, like, this is how I would normally say it. Can you, like, fix it for me?
No, I think in epistemology, what you're referring to is like primary sources and secondary sources, right?
Yeah.
So if you have ChatGPT as a language source, as a primary source, there's a lot of context you're going to be missing.
Yeah.
But you're going to get the meat of the matter. You're going to get, but those details that are sometimes very, very important. Look what Rasulullah said. Like this deen, this religion is sadr on sadr, right? Like we talk about, it's from chest to chest, right?
Yeah.
Someone can learn Islam through ChatGPT. They can learn on the internet. They can pick up a book and read it, but they're not going to get the context of somebody sitting with them. Just the fact that you're sitting with somebody and going through a text with them is a completely different culture than you holding it on your own and reading it. Yeah. It's like between it's so much of a difference. But then the nuances that are within, that are between the lines, that you're never going to get, even if you read those. This is how awesome like languages and like communication with human beings is that when you have an explanation of a text or a tafsir, for instance, someone can say, I read the Quran and I read the tafsir, so I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That same person can be taught the same text verbatim
Yeah.
with a human being, but get something completely different from it,
Yeah.
right? And that's the inheritance, right, that you get from knowledge that's sent down, right? But
Well, you don't learn about how important context is until you learn Arabic. Like
Yeah.
there's like context is so critical in Arabic
It's
when you're
insane, yeah.
speaking, because the things can be implied in so many different ways on a word on its own.
yeah,
Can mean many different meanings, but in the context of what you're doing or saying, that's why like many, at least it makes sense to me now when people would say don't study hadith on its own. Well, you have to really understand the Arabic language for that to make sense, because when you're young you think people are gatekeeping and like, oh, you don't know Arabic, so you're excluded out of this discussion. But until you learn Arabic, you understand how or why context matters so much in that language over English.
Yeah.
Because English, so many things is explicit. I'm not saying context is completely unimportant in English. It just matters a lot less
Yeah.
than in Arabic. It's just
there's
so
a lot
much
more on the line in the Sharia, obviously, the language of the Sharia,
Yeah.
and what would behold. So there's a lot more on the line than anything else.
If I'm not making sense, make sure you.
No, I agree with you 100%. But it's so awesome how Arabic is a gateway to the Sharia, and the language itself requires lots of understanding of context, and then that's kind of like the preface to rest of the Islamic sciences, right?
Yeah.
And the sacred text itself. The sacred text happens to be in the Arabic language, right?
Yeah.
So there's a little different level of context.
Yeah.
Right. That's why, like, whenever you study the Arabic language, like somebody specialized in the Arabic language, they have to they study, or even if they study tafsir, they have to study the language of the Arabs pre-Islam in order to understand the proper context of the Quran post-Islam from Revelation, right? Or else it can't be properly, like, you can't be a specialist if you haven't studied like pre-Islamic Arabic and poetry to be a specialist in the language of the Quran. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It doesn't exist. There's no way. No one could say that I specialize in the Quran and the Quranic language, and they haven't studied pre-Islamic Arabic. It's impossible.
Yeah. Hey, Rasa here did some Arabic as well. Don't worry, I'm not going to prop you up crazy, but you did study.
He was one of the first ones that went. I don't know if you wanted this out there, though.
No, we
haven't discussed this.
He went to Palestine, and
he's like,
he learned quite a bit of conversational Arabic, because I remember he was trying to play it down. He's like, "Oh, I'm a beginner." Bro, he was talking. he was talking.
This is in the late 90s, bro, I remember.
It was in 2000. Yeah.
2000.
I visited Palestine. I didn't learn Arabic there. I was in
know,
Cairo.
But you got to practice there, right?
Oh, yeah. I got to speak in Jordan, in Palestine,
Yeah.
in Egypt.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was focused. It was one of the best things I did in my life. And I tell people, when you're young, if you can go to a Muslim country, go study Arabic, go study Islam, do it. I did it. It was only for a summer. It was in year 2000. I tell my kids to do it. That's what you got to do.
Man, it's
I remember you and me emailing each other back and forth.
Yeah.
I remember you were back in Chicago still.
I don't remember, though, where you... I don't know if you're... Because we didn't discuss this before the show. We're just...
Stop worried worried about...
I don't know if you... This is his personal life. We didn't consult
it's not like he illegally entered through Trump's border.
I don't know if he wants it out there, though.
He's like smuggling little kids and like in a little grocery cart through the Egyptian Sinai border and into...
This guy, bro. Thank you. That was pretty...
Why is this so secretive?
Creative. No, anyways, so... We're past that now.
The brother's having good adab.
No. But I don't remember where exactly you were when you were in Cairo.
So I was at a school called Al Diwan.
Diwan? Okay, yeah.
Al Fajr was the big one back then.
Yeah, I was not too far from there.
Al Fajr is the one that all the Westerners would go to.
Yeah, Markaz Al Fajr.
And then the one that I went to, Al Diwan, was the one where all the international kids went to. So there were people from Senegal, Uzbekistan, Malaysia. There were some people from the U.S., but it was mostly people from all around the world. And almost nobody spoke English.
That's the best part.
Me and this one kid from Kansas City, they put us in the same class because we were both Americans, and our teacher spoke English, and he wanted to practice his English with us. So he's like, I'm going to put these guys, and he was the head of the school at that time. So I'm going to put these guys in my class. So it was us two with him. But everyone else, the other students had teachers, and none of them spoke English. They didn't have a common language amongst them. They were there to learn Arabic, and that's what they did.
Yeah, it's very stressful in the beginning, but it's very fruitful. But do you remember which area you lived in? I don't know why I'm so curious about this because I never asked you.
I was in Medina Nasr.
Okay, I was in Medina Nasr too. Where were you in Medina Nasr?
So there was a street called Abbas al-Aqad.
Yeah,
Yes.
Abbas
Abbas al-Aqad.
al-Tayran.
Yes.
Was the Egyptian air over there? The Masal al-Tayran?
No, I don't
When you were
remember
there?
that.
Towards the
there
end?
There was a restaurant. It was a kushri restaurant called Sheikh al-Balad.
Yeah.
That was a popular one there. So I was across the street from there.
Okay.
And there was down the road. There was this place Hadiq al-Dawliya.
Yeah. I used to go there all the time. I used to go there every week with my wife and kids.
So yeah, I would just take the bus from my flat to the school to Al Diwan. It's probably 2 miles. So it was just quick, 3 minutes, 5 minutes.
Yeah, what was it, like half a Jenin for the?
Probably.
Yeah, those were awesome. So where you were, I was basically parallel. I was on a street called Makram Abid.
Yeah,
which was
that.
right over.
Yeah.
It was basically from Sheikh al-Balad. I know where Sheikh al-Balad. I ate there a few times. It was probably like a 5-minute drive to there. When you were living there, did you live alone or did you?
So I had 2 roommates from the UK.
Nice.
Yeah, one was Chinese, a Chinese Muslim convert.
Nice.
He was older than us. I was 19. He was 30. So, and he was a convert. He was a unique guy, you know. And then there was another kid who was a little bit older than me, and he was half Egyptian, half British. So us 3 were roommates. I didn't hang with them as much. I hung out with the other kid that was in my class.
The Kansas City dude.
The Kansas City dude. We're still friends to this day.
That's legit.
Yeah.
That's so nice, dude.
Yeah, it's good.
Wow, so many years later, 25 years later.
Yeah, alhamdulillah, it was great.
Yeah. No, but I remember that. I remember he went for 3 months, and then he came back, and he would carry around the Arabic book with him because he wouldn't want to forget. So I remember once hanging out in your basement back in the day, and he brought his books with him. He was trying to like teach us a little bit. I remember that. That was one of the things that actually sparked my interest too.
Because I remember you were emailing me.
Yeah.
I was in an internet cafe in Medina Nasr.
That's what I used to use when I went there too. Yeah.
That's what I used to do. That's how you can get on the internet.
Yeah.
So I was at an internet cafe emailing you back and forth.
That's
and,
awesome.
and I remember the line you said. You said, I want to go to the Palace of Time. And I remember that. I was like, Amr, bro.
Oh, wow.
You goofy.
Dang, dude, you remember everything. MashaAllah.
No, not
dude.
everything. But I remember that. Because that was before you did your whole journey.
Yeah. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, dude. So the Arabic, that's what brought us here. Yeah, dude. Congratulations, though. MashaAllah, doing it on your own.
Doing it on my own, but look, I like one of the most difficult thing is that like if you prompt me to say something, I can't say it.
Yeah, that's with everything.
That's like it just that progression is so hard, and I think that's where I'm planning on taking just a regular Arabic teacher that I just talk to every day.
I'll tell you one thing: the amount that you learn right now, if you go into an environment, even an Arab-speaking country, somehow if you can work remotely, I don't know if you could take a month off, and you live there and immerse yourself, bro, you'll get to like 100% probably plus of what you are right now. Yeah, just by living there. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Just by living. I mean,
reading and stuff, I'm doing pretty well. Like I can read a lot now. I'm pretty confident. Like I'm saying, I want to say 70% of like stuff that I'm reading. I'm not talking about like newspaper level, but I'm talking about like more grade school level. Yeah, like they're just. I mean, even on like newspapers and stuff, you can pick up things, but it's a bit harder. Yeah. But
point being is you have to be obsessive though, man. You have to. Yeah. So and I'm glad that we're talking about this because there's still people out there that like, oh, that's it's so late for me to learn Arabic and stuff. No, man, it's not, dude. I mean, it's never too late. Just become obsessive, like obsessed about certain things and.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like I also discover like what do they call them, learning tools or something, pedagogy. Like how do you make things stick in your mind? And one of the things is like I love comedy, right? So I'm imagining myself making jokes to you in Arabic.
Get out of here.
No,
but that's what you do on a regular basis when you're joking around.
Yeah, but I'm making jokes with you, right? Like we're always joking around. Yeah. So I'm like thinking about things to say to you in Arabic, even though it's just happening in my head. I'm just imagining it because you need to make it crystallize and cement in your mind, right? So what better way to do it with things you love, right? Like making people laugh and stuff like that. So I found that a really good tool to speed along. Even though you're not having real life conversations with someone, you're having them inside your head. And it's fun. It's because it's humor, and I love.
Wow, that's really cool.
Comedy. So
this is kind of not related, but kind of related at the same time. You know what they say? Like 90%. There's a study that was done I think it's 85 to 90% of men in the morning when they take a shower, they're thinking about like their financial issues, you know, while they're taking a shower.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how it's like supposed to be like a roller coaster where like when you start taking a shower, you just getting ready, and then all of a sudden you're kind of in the zone. You zone out. You get in this flow state of thinking about all your money issues, especially if you're in debt. If you're not in debt, you got to make this move, you got to make that move. But then other projects that you're doing too. And one thing I realized is what I was studying when I was abroad, especially when I was first learning, I would, when I was in the shower, if I had like a class, I would like act out when I first meet my teacher what I'm going to say to him, how to say it properly, and then sit down and then do, if I had like a small mini presentation, what I was going to say, what I was going to do. And then like next thing you know, like I obviously 50% of it usually works out and 50% doesn't. But that's like my mindset was when I was taking a shower. You know, like I was always think like how it's going to go, what my conversation is going to be, how I'm going to say it, how I'm going to do it. When I get on the bus, this is what I'm going to ask for. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to like refine it more and more. And I just found myself like constantly like just refining my Arabic language while taking a shower in the morning. It was crazy. Yeah.
You know, that must have been hard because some of the countries you were in, water was a hot commodity, bro.
Yeah. No, but alhamdulillah, Egypt was a lot more relaxing than Mauritania. But I'm not gonna lie, bro. I still miss Egypt. No matter what people say about how poverty it was and how much hardship it was, some of it probably had to do with it just being a temporary place. But I loved Egypt, bro. I lived in India and I loved Egypt, and I loved Egypt a lot more than India.
Yeah, bro. I was just in Egypt for a day for a layover in November.
Get out of here.
I went to Cairo. So I had a 10-hour layover.
Oh.
So I'm like, you know what? This is great. I'm going to go to the city. I'm going to go check things out. It was great.
Everything probably changed so much, bro.
Well, you know, I went there in 2022. I took my 2 sons with me.
Okay.
So I visited all the same places where I lived. Medina Nasser. We went to Zamalek. We stayed in Zamalek. There was a Airbnb in Zamalek we had. So anyways, in 2022, we went to Khan Khalili, and I met some of the shopkeepers. And it was during Ramadan when we went in 2022. There was one guy who was very nice to us. He gave us iftar, sat, talked. He asked where I'm from. I said Pakistan. He's like, oh, I love Pakistan. Allama Iqbal, Karachi, Islamabad. I love Pakistan. Good people. I was like, okay, mashallah. So when I went back just this November, I had the cab take me to Khan Khalili, and I asked for that guy. I was like, there's this guy. His name is Omar. And like at that time in 2022, I took a video and a picture. So I showed these guys, like, this is the guy I'm looking for. He's like, that's my best friend. He's like, I'm going to go take you to him. So I was in this one shop. He took me to that guy's shop. Yeah.
Beautiful thing, bro. Nice. That's a beautiful thing.
So the point that I'm saying is, I love Cairo.
Yeah.
I love Cairo.
Cairo's beautiful.
I mean, it's dirty, it's loud, it's congested.
But it's awesome.
There's so much traffic, but I love it.
I love it too.
I just like the energy.
I love it too, man.
I like Cairo.
The energy, the people, like people usually when they talk about Egypt, they're always referring to like the touristy places. But when you live there and your boots on the ground, you're there with the people, is different, bro.
It's just fun to be around. It's such a busy city.
It is.
There's so much going on.
And Zamalek's nice too. I'm glad you had an Airbnb in Zamalek. Zamalek's legit.
Yeah. The Airbnb wasn't as legit as I thought, but it's okay. That's part of the Egyptian experience.
Yeah.
You're in Cairo.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like that.
Yeah. I got you.
Before we get too far along in the discussion, I want to bring our listeners' attention towards a fundraiser that we're having for a listener of our show who was recently released out of incarceration, and his name is Brother Mustafa, and he was incarcerated, and while he was incarcerated, he accepted Islam, and he progressed eventually to leading or being an assistant imam at times to a lot of the congregants, a lot of the Muslim congregants in prison. So we're trying to help him out. We want to get him on his feet. He just got out, and you know, I mean, if I accepted Islam from prison, bro, where's my Muslim family? Yeah, you know, that's what I'm like. Where's that? Like, you're itching to see Muslims all around the world, and you know, want to be part of this family. We want to give him a help, a little boost, you know. He's a really good brother, sweet brother. Myself and Sheikh Amr both talked to him, and he's just an amazing dude.
He was actually a source of strength for me, man. I'm sorry to cut you off, but when I was traveling in Florida, his guy was always checking up on me, bro. I felt bad because I wasn't calling him, and he was working obviously a tough job. And whenever he had time, he called me. I'm just checking up on you, brother. Man, you're in Florida. I know you're alone. How you feeling? He's such a bro. This guy, mashallah, man. And you know, Allah's Rasulullah, you know, in a beautiful hadith, lengthy hadith, but you know, the one who is going to be helpful to his brother, Allah's, you know, going to be helpful to that person. And there's one thing that you see in the character, and he didn't ask me to say it. He's probably going to embarrass him to say some of this.
Yeah, Mustafa, if you're listening, just forward through this part.
Yeah, forward to this part. You're going to cringe. But he's one of those people, you know, Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, he narrated a hadith from Rasulullah. He said that the believer is like light rain.
Yeah.
Like, why did Rasulullah say light rain? Because light rain is very pleasant. It's not too much. It's not too little. Just enough.
Yeah. The Haramain rain, bro.
Yeah, and it actually makes you happy, right? And it makes you feel good. And it's not like, it's not causing a nuisance to you, like you're getting drenched. It's just nice enough, and you're not getting completely wet, but it feels full of barakah, you know? And that's how I felt the brother was. That's who he is. And I'm not just saying that. He didn't tell me to say any of this. I didn't even know we were going to do this today. I completely forgot about the fundraiser. But do whatever you can to help the brother. You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encourages us to help those people that are in need, you know, and helping those people that are going towards taqwa, and don't, you know, engage. Ta'awunu ala al-ithmi. I'm forgetting the verse right now, but ta'awunu ala al-birri wa taqwa wa la ta'awunu ala al-ithmi wal-udwan. You know, you encourage and you propagate and you prop up those things that have to do with taqwa, and you discourage and you go away from those things that are udwan, that cause any type of enmity. And this brother is showed relentless dedication. He started listening to our podcasts in prison, and he said this became like a regular thing for me, and it gave me strength. And someone gave him a Quran, and he said, you know, it was just going to be a book that I was going to read, and it happened to be a book that was given to him. He thought it was going to be like a light reading book, like, here, take this, all right, I'll read it sometime. And he ended up reading it. Mashallah, he became Muslim. And he said, for some reason, there's so many things that were blocked that we could listen to in prison, and for some reason the mad Mamluks slipped through the cracks. And I started listening to you guys, and it just started becoming a source of strength. Now, that's nothing from us. That's from Allah. But when somebody tells you that, bro, it chokes you up, because they're in prison. They're there for so many years. Yeah. And they tell you that, to us, this is kind of like a hobby. Not for you, because you do all the work. But sometimes we just show up and we're just shooting the breeze. We think we're just shooting the breeze. Yeah. And there's somebody behind bars that's getting strength from it. That's a beautiful thing, man.
Yeah, man. You don't realize, because all the time you're like, is it time to hang it up? You know? And then there's like them, all of a sudden Allah just sends you a guy like Mustafa, says, you really think you didn't, like people don't benefit at all? And he like talked about how you know, sometimes we take breaks, you know, for Ramadan or something. He's like, those would be the longest moments when you guys weren't putting out any shows for a month. And I'm like, oh man.
That's beautiful. No, it's a beautiful thing, man.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, I'm going to tell 2 stories. There's a brother that I know also that converted in prison probably 30 years ago. And he told me somebody gave him a copy of the Quran. Okay? Now, he was a killer. This guy was a gangbanger. He was, you know, a serious guy. And he said, I used to ride around. It was in Chicago. He's like, I used to ride around on my bike, and people would know I was one of the shooters. Like, there were people who would run off at the mouth, but they wouldn't pull the trigger. He's like, I was one of the guys who would pull the trigger. You know, he was a bad guy. He got sent to prison for whatever. So he was in prison, and somebody gave him a copy of the Quran. He's like, I started reading it. He's like, I couldn't believe it. He said, I knew the guy wanted the Quran back from me, so I started copying it by hand and not translating, but writing down on a sheet of paper or a pad of paper, because I know this guy's going to ask for the Quran back. SubhanAllah. You hear stories like that, you're like, SubhanAllah. And that's how you know, like, this is the word of Allah. Like, it hits people's heart like that, where he's like, no. I'm not going to give it back to you until I'm finished copying this down.
That's impressive.
He's like, this is what I was looking for my whole life. So that's one thing. The second thing I wanted to share for Brother Mustafa, or anyone in that situation, or anyone who's struggling in the situation, read the story of Abdurrahman bin Auf. Abdurrahman bin Auf, he was one of the, everybody knows this, but he was one of those Sahaba who moved from Mecca to Medina with the Prophet ﷺ. And he had just this mindset of like, no, I'm going to make it happen, okay? You know, so when the Muslims moved from Mecca to Medina, the Prophet ﷺ made the brotherhood between the Aus and the Khazraj, right? So, not the Aus and the Khazraj, the Ansar and the Muhajirin. So, a Muhajir will become a brother with an Ansari to get him up on his feet, right? So, Abdurrahman bin Auf was paired with a Sahabi from Medina who had 2 wives, 2 gardens, like 2 pieces of property, pieces of land.
Yeah.
And that Sahabi was like, you know what? I'm going to divorce one of my wives and give her to you to marry, and I'm going to give you one of my pieces of property so you can be set here. He's like, no. Just point me to the market. Point me to the market. I'll be okay. He goes, at some time, he comes back, some time passes, and the Prophet ﷺ notices that he got married. He's like, subhanAllah. So in a short period of time, he had that mindset where he's like, I'm going to make it happen. So the reason I'm telling you that story is go read the story of Abdurrahman bin Auf. Anyone who's struggling, anyone who feels like, oh man, financially I'm not where I need to be, just read the story of Abdurrahman bin Auf. And on YouTube, there's a lecture there's a brother, he's in the UK, Abdurrahman Banjera, I think is his name.
Yeah.
Yusuf Abdurrahman Banjera or something like
that. Bam's brother.
Yeah, okay.
Bam.
Yes, I got you. That was Jackass reference.
He's looking at me, pointing at me. That was Jackass.
It's a Jackass reference.
Oh, the show Jackass. Okay,
The show
okay.
Jackass.
Okay, yeah, I thought you were talking to me because you pointed at me and said Jackass.
He's not his brother.
He's not his brother.
Not his brother.
Wow, I don't know how people are gonna get that joke, but that was pretty impressive. But
You
anyways,
watch.
Mufti Abdurrahman bin
Mufti
Jarrah.
Abdurrahman
Hopefully, he
bin
never
Jarrah.
watches to see how you just did that, bro. Anyways, go
Yeah.
Jokes.
Watch the video he has on Abdurrahman bin Auf and Rizq. It just gives you that mindset. So if you listen, I know brothers who either have gotten out of prison or who had financial difficulty. They got on their feet. They were great. Like I know this one brother. He started some sort of construction kind of business. He partnered with another brother who's got big contracts from Walmart and these big box stores. So this brother who has, a checkered past partnered with this guy who's got these contracts to renovate and do lighting and fix parking lot lights and all that stuff. The brother's rolling. He's talking in a very short amount of time. Now he's got money. He's saying, I'm building properties. I'm
Mashallah.
starting all these businesses. So I just want to give that encouragement to anyone.
Yeah.
Who feels like, oh man, I've got this background, or I've got this hardship, or this I don't have these skills. It's okay, man. Allah will turn it around.
Abdurrahman bin Auf. Jazakallah khairan.
Yeah, read the story of
That's
Abdurrahman bin
beautiful.
Auf. So just watch it.
Beautiful.
So Mustafa Mubarak Gunn, guys, please. I don't even like say donate. Like invest in this brother and in the akhirah for yourself.
And yourself, man. Like anytime there's difficulty in my life, I'm like, okay, I need to help someone else out. Because there's 2 things you could do. You just worry about yourself, and then you just like, oh man, all I do is just complain. Well, I have a roof over my head, I have food in my stomach, but I'm complaining about such and such problem. And I just start like diverting my brain. Like, okay, why don't you just help someone else out? Allah already says that if you help your brother out, He will relieve your own problems
of this dunya.
And so you just have that mindset, and that takes some faith too, as well. Like many people say, well, is that really the case? Well, yes, it is. And if you help someone else out, Allah will help you out. And that's I think is the biggest incentive.
Yeah.
Everyone has like problems, but when you just kind of think beyond yourself, Allah's kind of helping you. Like, stop obsessing about your own self. You've already made it to whatever age you are. You're 30, 40, 50, 60. You've made it this far. Like, you're not homeless. You got food in your stomach. You got, Allah's taking care of you.
You got everything you need.
And that's the wild part about it all. It's like we always are just stressing about something.
Yeah.
And you've already made it this far.
What you said, that's gold, man. This is the last thing I'll say because I've been rambling on randomly. But this is, we obsess about ourselves so much. But the key to stop that obsession, that you're overthinking that, is helping other people.
Yeah.
Because, like, how awesome does it feel? Like, there's a worldly benefit, there's a personal benefit, a good greed to when you help people. It makes you feel good about yourself. Like one of the tools that are used for people that may have anxiety or depression, I'm not saying it's a cure, but is just helping other people. When someone has depression and they help other people, whether by charity or personal, someone that you're coaching and giving them money, helping them, that actually helps your status internally. Yeah. And physically has a physical manifestation, obviously, and then there's obviously the manifestation between you and Allah. But that's really interesting. It takes the microscope you have on yourself away from yourself to other people, which makes you want to do more, right? So Allah make everything easy for this brother. He's really somebody who's been trying really hard, and he's a beautiful brother. Hopefully, I was talking to him one day. I said, hopefully, if you're in studio one day, we can have you and talk to you, inshallah. But he's a great brother, mashallah.
Link is in the episode description. Also, we'll throw it into the comments as well. Please be sure to check it out. So, GoFundMe link, I believe. Reza, while you were in Palestine, did you visit Jenin?
No, I was just there just for one day, actually. I was in Amman. We took a bus. This is funny. So this is in year 2000. It was August of 2000. I met somebody. So I took a bus from Cairo to a port city in Egypt, and then I took a boat across the Red Sea into Aqaba, Jordan, and from Jordan and Aqaba, Jordan, another bus in the middle of the night up to Amman.
Get out.
And I had somebody meet me in Amman. So I was in Iyad Hilal, if anyone who knows him and his son. They picked me up, and I stayed with them for a week in Amman.
We never knew about this.
In year 2000.
Studies in Usul Fiqh author. You met a famous author, bro.
In year 2000, yeah. So I was coordinating with him, and I stayed with him, Iyad Hilal and his son, in Amman. So then me and Tariq, his son, we went to Jerusalem for just one day. We went there. We took a cab.
Cool.
We were there. We went to Masjid al-Aqsa. And then we came back. But the funny thing about that story, that was August of 2000. That was a week before Ariel Sharon went into the Haram and started the whole Intifada.
Wow.
It was literally a week. I was there maybe on the night, I think the 19th or 18th or something of August. It was just one day. Or maybe it was a week before that. And maybe Ariel Sharon came in. If someone Googles it or whatever, you can see when Ariel Sharon and his entourage came into Masjid al-Aqsa. That's when people started.
That was like 2002, right?
It was the year 2000. That's when people picked up rocks. If you Google it, you'll find it.
Okay.
Wow.
I was there just a week before that, man. It was things were calm then, but after then,
it's a calm before the storm.
Yes, for the past 25 years, it's been
April 2002.
Ariel Sharon
in April 2002.
No, look up August. It was August of the year 2000.
Okay.
It was
man.
The first time Ariel Sharon went in there. That was a big issue. He was the prime minister of.
But when you were there, was there anything in the air that something was going to happen or some crazy thing?
No.
Did you see anything that was kind of like, kid grew up in America but saw something crazy?
No. So September of 2000, right? Yeah, I was there in August of 2000. It was just a week before.
Wow.
That's nuts.
Yeah, it was a big problem when he went in there.
No, I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that. And you're asking about Jenin Weiss.
Well, because the Israelis are now invading Jenin. They're killing people. This seems like was kind of a way for Jenin, for those who don't know, is like, it's considered the capital of the resistance for many reasons, because many of the people who were displaced after the first Nakba in 1948, they set up refugee camps in the northern part of the West Bank in a small, I think it's like a quarter mile, or a kilometer, a small piece of land, where now there's like 20,000 people in this small, tiny piece of land. And it's like a giant refugee camp in the West Bank. And these people have been historically, since the beginning, since 1948, been known to rebel against the Israeli occupation forces. And the Israelis are now attacking Jenin, and they're killing people left and right. There's many fighters as well over there too. They have many factions of whether it's Islamic Jihad, Hamas, etc., all kind of bunched up over there. So they're, while they kind of made a ceasefire agreement with in Gaza, they're trying to appease their far right coalitions in Israel, and by killing people in the West Bank effectively. So it never ends with these people, and we knew it. We talked about it in the last show that despite the ceasefire agreement, they're not going to stop killing. There's genocidal monsters. There's just no other way to explain their behavior and how they act, but that they're just irrational, and they're bloodthirsty people. There's no no way anyone can explain that kind of maniacal, bloodthirsty type of people who drove their kids to rooftops to see the decimation and killing of Gaza.
Yeah.
Like, who does that? Like, you wouldn't want to see the destruction of your worst enemy, and no matter of what people,
especially at that level, because there's innocent majority of people that are being killed are innocent people, and you're going on boat rides and on rooftops to show these kids that other kids like you, hey, they're all dying, but guess what? They're not kids like you. You're much more valuable. These are animal kids. You guys are real kids.
They literally call them rats.
Yeah, they do, because it's easier to kill them that way, right? You don't have to feel guilty. But it was so telling. I know we didn't want to. Last Saturday, we don't want to talk about. We don't want to be downers,
Yeah, because the people that were celebrating, and
they were celebrating. We want to have respect
and
celebrate with them, because at least they're getting that small gap of fresh air. But meanwhile, while that truce was happening here, there was murders and genocide happening just miles away to the same people, and we knew something like that was going to happen. And Netanyahu, the evil part about all of this is he's doing this to prove to his people that he's still game. I'm still far right, because some of his cabinet members, Ben Gavir's, and they're willing to sever ties with him because of the ceasefire, and he has to prove to them that he's still on. And Muslim lives have to, just for this small whim and desire, Muslims have to die. And like you said, they're maniacal monsters, and this is not going to end. We knew who these people were, but the world knows now who these people are.
Yeah. Here's a snapshot of them attacking.
I'm sick of watching these videos, bro.
He's just breaking up roads, I think, right now. This is Jenin, by the way. Alright, that was just one. And then, you guys can talk while I pull that up.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I'm just trying to distract I don't want to look at that anymore, man. I'm sick of looking at that stuff.
Yeah.
I kind of got off of X because that stuff was just, I know every Muslim should know what's happening and stuff, but after a while, it's like,
you're not doing any.
You're not. I mean, alhamdulillah, we're trying to raise our best to raise awareness, but it's like, you're not neglecting them. Your heart is still with them, but at the same time, you're kind of losing it to a certain degree, and you don't know what the hell you're gonna do next. And that's kind of what they want. They want people to act up and do something crazy. So, other than that, alhamdulillah, man, I think, I don't know what they're gonna do. Like, they know it's inevitable. Imagine living that situation.
Mariam Barghouti joins us live from Ramallah in the occupied West Bank. Mariam, what's being said about the timing of this attack? Is it just the result of days of simmering violence, or is it being linked to the ceasefire in Gaza 3 days ago and Trump's inauguration?
Well, what we're seeing from Operation Iron Wall, officially waged by the Israeli government yesterday in the West Bank, is that the timing isn't unique, nor should it surprise Palestinians. And Palestinians are reminding that before October 7th, 2023, Itamar Ben Gvir, the Minister of National Security, has been vowing to wage what he dubbed Operation Defensive Shield 2. And that is in reference to the large-scale Israeli military invasion that took place in the early 2000s that focused also on Jenin refugee camp, killing hundreds of Palestinians and nearly destroying the entirety of the camp at the time. So now as the ceasefire goes into effect with Gaza and with additional manpower in terms of soldiers and technology such as drones and Apache helicopters, helicopters, the Israeli government is able to move forward in its plans for annexing lands in the West Bank, paving the way for increased settler expansion, but also to try and quell any prospects of Palestinian resistance rising from the West Bank. So this is kind of where the timing comes in. It's neither new nor unique, rather an implementation of an old plan.
And separately, we know that on his first day in office, Trump also lifted sanctions on some Israeli settlers who had been accused of violence, perpetrating violence against Palestinians in the occupied territory. Is that being seen as a sign of things to come in terms of Israel and the occupied territories?
Yes, so in terms of the Trump administration just being sworn in a day after the ceasefire goes into effect is a signal to kind of a volatile situation where people don't really know what kind of decisions Trump will make in his current term. However, his most recent decision as just 2 days into office is to basically legalize settler practices in the West Bank, showcases the prospects for the future, and that seems likely to be increased settler violence. We have already seen pogroms happen in the West Bank, from the burning of homes to property by Israeli settlers, and it's likely only going to escalate. And an emboldened regime, as we have seen, only promises more violence. So Palestinians are frightened, and right now the West Bank is essentially on lockdown.
So there you have it. These people just are figuring out ways to agitate the Palestinians, try to figure out ways to incite them, go to war again. If given the chance, they're going to be using any kind of violence that's committed from the people of Jenin to level Jenin altogether and take that land, because that's what they want to do.
So trying to see things for what they are, right? Because I mean, that's the reason why we talk about some of these things, not just to report the news, but to try to see between the lines. Just for starters, what benefit does this overreaching action from Trump seem to be, that as soon as he comes into office, he's seems to be pardoning on the face value settlers? Like, why would he have to do that as an American president? Settlers. Like, what? How do we make sense of that?
Trump is pardoning settlers?
Yes, what they're talking about. The settlers in the giving them what's the word that she used? Giving them not what did she say about settlers? Not giving them pardon, but more like,
you mean that the U.S. sanctions that the illegal
they're lifting sanctions off of
yes, but they're giving them more autonomy.
Yeah,
right. Why are they giving them more autonomy?
I'm sure this was part of the agreement that they made when they first went over there. When Trump went to Israel, or he sent, I can't remember the guy's name, but he sent a representative to Israel to negotiate or tell them, like, hey, this ceasefire begins now, it's over. And I'm sure they had some demands as well from Trump that he revokes these U.S. sanctions on the illegal Israeli settlements or settlers that were occupying many areas of the West Bank. So,
do you know, like, how much they were actually enforcing those sanctions, or was it just for optics? It was just for optics.
It was
right?
not for optics. They didn't enforce anything.
No, I think they weren't allowing them to come to the U.S. That's what the sanction was. Is that what it is? I think they weren't granting them visas to come to the U.S.
Achoo.
Yeah. I don't think it was actual economic sanctions they were putting on them. They were just saying, this list of settlers, because of XYZ reason, is not allowed to come to the U.S.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and that's what I wanted to know. Like, why overreach? But that makes more sense now. Yeah. Because it just seemed like he was overreaching. Like, out of all this, he's the second day in office and talking, making, giving more autonomy to settlers. It just seemed a little weird to me.
Yeah. They've already, as we talked about in the last show, this whole charade of Israel is coming to an end. They've already delegitimized themselves across the world. No one no sane person will look at this and say like, oh yeah, this is the way you handle things. You know, when you've stolen people's land and displaced them, that you go brazenly about killing and indiscriminately murdering tens of thousands of people, if not hundreds of thousands. This is just the beginning of the end for them, as Harry mentioned on the past show.
You know, and I always found it very interesting, even from the beginning, how the world is just everyone's picking their teams and everyone's alignment is just there's this big split in this world, based off of Gaza. You know, you have a lot of civilians of the Muslim world who are against it. Leaders are protecting.
Everyone's against it. I think it just shows to you how powerful the United States is, as well.
Yeah.
How far and away. I'm not
Even
saying
physically.
I'm not saying the United States is indestructible, but in terms of how, just seeing how people don't want to challenge powerful people. They kind of get quiet in face of power. It's really fascinating to see, just on a sociological level, just seeing how people can just become quiet. Like, oh, this person can affect our lives, so we just better, or our livelihood, or our economy, or cause some level of discomfort to me, so I'm just going to look the other way. And
that is fascinating.
I mean, remember when we were young, they would show us videos of the Holocaust in public schools. By the way, for anyone internationally watching, every American student is just given it seems like at least like a week or two of World War II Holocaust related teachings, and you go to museums and you
Schindler's
study
List.
it and you watch movies. It's crazy. So and you're, as a child, you're like wondering like, well, why would people be quiet about this, you know? And now you're seeing why when power acts in a way where it has the ability to cause you discomfort, you're just gonna, at least the human inclination is just to look the other way instead of challenging it. And now the people who went through the Holocaust are doing that to the other people. It's crazy.
It is crazy.
The same exact behavior. Calling them rats. They were called rats in Nazi Germany. It's crazy. They're doing the exact same stuff. It's wild. Yeah, man. It's just wild on the sociological level. Like, you'd think that people who went through that would never do something like that to someone else, you know? Yeah. And they're behaving exactly the same way. It
makes you think, you know, like, it sucks, but like people are like really, nobody trusts the people who are anti-war, because there are people who still believe the whole myth of the Palestinians supporting Hamas, and Hamas, they all colluded to do this attack, and they've always been this way. But it's really interesting how the divide occurs on a global level now. You have, I don't know what the split is, but in the United States, as far as anti-Zionist, pro-Palestine, and vice versa. But this split that's happening is so clear now, and based on that, the people who are anti-Zionist, they're just revisiting history and everything. It's almost like everything they've ever learned, they're relearning. You see this with non-Muslims, Muslims alike. They're just revisiting everything because of this one situation, which tells us this one situation is very, very grand. It's not something that we take lightly, you know?
I would tell you, this guy, we might have talked about this before, but this guy, Dan Bilzerian, and all the things he's been saying, if you saw his interview on Piers Morgan, if you saw the interview he did with Patrick Bet-David, the things he's saying, you wouldn't imagine people even thinking the things he's saying. And you know what? Good for him. This isn't a criticism. This is actually a salute for him standing up and questioning. And there's other conservative voices like this guy, Nick Fuentes. Yeah. Say what you will about him, but I like the fact that there are people on the conservative side who are saying, why are we giving all this money to a foreign country?
Yeah.
And why is this the only country that has a political action committee, a lobbying group that isn't registered as a foreign agent?
It's evil. It's evil,
and it shows how deep it goes in the government, in the industries. You can't even question it. You can't ask why without being labeled anti-Semitic. Like, well, all right, let's just avoid the discussion altogether. That's why there's just so many influential people, comedians, actors, and stuff like that, who are just quiet. They know what's going on.
Yeah.
They know, like, that there's a level of fear that they're operating under. There's consequences associated with talking about this kind of stuff, and they're like, you know what? I can't afford that right now. That's not my battle. And yeah, I mean, well, Nick Fuentes and stuff, they kind of just talk some crazy stuff too, just blatantly racist stuff too. So that's why I don't take him per se more as seriously as someone like Dan Bilzerian. Dan Bilzerian is a sharp dude, He's a really wealthy, successful person who made a pretty good sum of money. I can't remember what exactly his business was, but
even Nick Fuentes, look, he's got a huge following.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like that's threatening because people with such huge followings are going against the grain. That becomes very problematic, right?
Yeah.
And that's what it takes. It just takes people with guts.
Yeah.
Just like you said, there are so many people who are afraid to say something. When that happens, there's something amiss.
Yeah.
At some point, the jig is up.
Yeah.
Is that everyone's scared to say something? People eventually will say, wait a minute, why are we all so scared about talking? What are the repercussions? Who's pulling the strings? That's
how many
making
people?
us
How many
scared?
people are you going to fire?
How many people are you going to fire? How much are you going to keep using these empty threats until they eventually lose their value? And people are like, fine, call me this, call me that. I'm asking legitimate questions. You're the one that looks like the fool.
Yeah.
You're the one that looks like the one who's a little too sensitive because I'm just simply asking a question.
Yeah. Well, what do you think are like what's in this for Muslims? Like, what should we be aware of? What should we be taking out of this? I know there's so much that happened. It's unfair to say what should we be taking out of all of this, but as of now, with the ceasefire, with what's happening in Jenin now, with this relationship that Muslims were just like, yeah, I met Muslims that were like, yeah, Trump is a changed man. He's going to help the Muslims. Look how he sent out this video with Jeffrey Sachs making fun of Netanyahu, and he's on our side now. Like, we're so naive still, and we haven't understood what's actually happening. Like, where do we start from here? What do we do from here?
What I'll say is, I'm not saying he's on anyone's side, but I do like those type of moves. Okay? I'm not saying he's on anyone's side. I'm not conflating any of his actions. But I like that kind of move. And Trump's an unpredictable kind of guy.
Yeah.
You don't know. Like, he might say one thing and then act in a totally different way.
Yeah.
You can't predict what this guy does. Or you do know he's about making deals.
Yeah.
And he's about being bombastic. Those are two things we know.
Yeah.
But when you look at what he's done so far, yeah, a lot of people are scared. Fine. But I think the number one thing is for Muslims to realize at the end of the day, man, we're on the truth. Inshallah, we're on the truth. That is the first thing to do. And to remember, look, what do we have to be afraid of? We're not doing anything wrong. We're not saying anything wrong. Like, that's really just a blanket statement that we should always have. No matter what's happening, we shouldn't be afraid.
Yeah.
We have nothing to be afraid of.
No, real power, comes with truth. I'm glad you said that. Like, if you just observe throughout your entire life, true power comes with what's truth and truth seekers. But the issue with people who carry the truth is it starts off as them coming off as weak and people who are disenfranchised and people who have nothing. Because all people of power originally had absolutely nothing, right? And whether it's the life of Rasulullah or anybody else who had to make some drastic change, that change means what? That means that you're doing something different than everybody else. So when you bring about change, you're presenting them with something that may be alien to them or something that they don't like. Naturally, you're going to be in a weak position in their eyes, in the eyes of the world. But in reality, you're on the side of Allah, right? And that's the thing with the ghaib. You can't see that right away. It's not instant. The gratification is not instant, and people can't see that right away. You may not be able to see that right away. That's why you have to have that relationship with Allah and the Quran, right? Is to know that I'm on the truth, no matter how bitter it feels, no matter how painful it is. I may have to, how many people do we know just talked about Israel had to sacrifice? They sacrificed everything. I mean, just by talking about Israel and what they've done, like what happened to their lives. Yeah. They got fired, they got disenfranchised. People didn't want to come close to them. Their family was afraid that their lives were being tapped, so they basically don't talk to them out of fear. It's a reality, man.
It's a reality, and it's a culture of fear that they're trying to instill in people.
Exactly.
And one of the things is that we learn, at least when you're a child, if you stand up for someone at school who's being bullied or something, and you get into a fight, they're going to get suspended, right?
And you're going to get hurt.
You did the right thing, but you got suspended. Mm-hmm. There's going to be consequences to doing the right thing.
Beautifully said. Yeah.
And that's something you have to integrate, not in yourself, but also if you have children and stuff like that, you have to teach them that just because there's consequences to doing the right thing doesn't mean that you don't do it. There's this selfish thing that sometimes that you'd hear in growing up. You'd hear kids say, "Oh, no good deed goes unpunished," right? No good. Is it good reward, or no good deed goes unpunished, right? And I'm like, what? So does that mean that you don't do it? Like you don't help someone? Like someone you see in movies or something, like someone picking up a hitchhiker, they feel bad, like, oh, this poor miskeen sitting on the highway, he needs a ride. He turns out to be a serial killer. Like it creates these kind of scenes in movies and culture, like they create like this mind where why don't you just think about yourself and leave the human byproduct, the waste product, what they consider people who are in need, leave them to the jungle. Like let them figure it out themselves. Worry about yourself, and it's a very, very scary way to think about it, and it shows you why there's just so much selfishness in the West. Just incredibly beautiful and really giving people as well. I'm not saying the West is devoid of anything good. There's whether you're Muslim or non-Muslim, there's just a lot of good people here as well who are caring and compassionate. But you see a noticeable level of selfishness growing among people where they're just like, you know what, I'm just going to worry about myself.
Sim, the people are usually good. It's the people who can pull the strings, have the agenda that build, like you said, this environment. People everywhere are good. We believe that as Muslims.
Yeah.
Everyone by nature is good and pure.
Everyone has that North Star built in their body.
Yes. And that moral compass is there. It's the fitra. Everybody has it. That's the problem with injustice and tyranny and oppression is there's a select few people who shaitan has really got a grasp of their forelocks, and they pull the strings, and everybody has to abide by those rules, right?
Yeah.
So hence, there's people that are still very, very good, but because of ramifications, right, they have to become a certain way, even if it's face value. But that face value ruins the social fabric, while certain shayateen benefit from the human beings.
That North Star itself is like a miracle in itself. If you think about it. Like if things was just random and we were just a byproduct of biology and evolution and stuff, well then shouldn't falsehood and lies just be equal in our spirit and our nature? Like, why are we so inclined to wanting to tell the truth? Why does this cause such a biological reaction? Sweating, profusing, nervousness. It should be like second nature to lie.
That's a beautiful observation, sir.
If it was just about survival, if biology was built so that you survive, lying should be very difficult. Because lying can, at least in your mind, it makes you think that this is for your survival. It should be a survival instinct, but it actually makes you act all crazy and it spikes your heart rate, sweating, looking the other way, can't make eye contact.
Everything in your body is rejecting it.
Everything in your body is rejecting it.
Everything.
And that in itself is a miracle right there.
SubhanAllah.
I mean, it's just a built-in. There's just so much, man.
If we can skip a little bit, not skip, just move on to, because I'm really interested in what you guys thought of the inauguration.
The inauguration. You want to start things off?
Go.
No, I just, so it was
Please.
just look, we're not fans of Trump. Everyone knows we're not fans of either side. There's things that we like about Trump and the right, the conservatives. There's things about the left that are very admirable and have great qualities as well. Our show has always been something that is always saying that we carve our own path, and we are the ambassadors of Islam to the West.
Meaning Muslims, us as Muslims, yes.
We as Muslims, that's our objective here. That being said, it was so funny to see Joe Biden and Kamala Harris having to sit through Donald Trump just talking and battering and bad-mouthing their
piñatas,
just leveling everything that they've worked for over the past 4 years. Whether it's the DEI stuff or it's having to listen to men and women are there's only two genders. I was like, what? Like, he's going there like this is a like a presidential speech you're giving. Like, this is your address, your party, and you're just gonna take shots. I thought it was funny.
I loved it.
I thought it was so
entertainment. Pure entertainment.
Like, inaugural address, like you see one, you've seen them all. Like, they're all pretty much the same. Even during his first presidency, it was boring. There's no memorable moment in there. But this one, just all the people who are forced to be there out of respect. Obama, Biden, Kamala, just having to eat a big poop sandwich. Hefty quarter-pound poop sandwich. Oh, that was so good.
Bro, I've been trying to hold myself while you were talking because I have so much. Put it this way. I knew before I listened to it that I'm going to have so much fun. Because the leader of the free world, right? The president of the United States, inaugural speech. I was like, I know this dude. He's gonna be dropping bombs, bro. And this dude, without mentioning the name skillfully, there's a few things I noticed. He didn't have to mention Biden's name and Kamala Harris's name, but he completely massacred, talking about how horrible. He didn't say the word horrible. How much we have to repair from the previous administration. The previous administration falsely led people to believe this and this and that, right? But the funny thing with this guy, if you listen to his first speech and his second speech, right? The first one, he was actually acting and speaking presidentially, and the tone of his voice and being calm and not acting like a lunatic, but he was taking these digs, right? Over and over. The only time Kamala Harris, if you look at it, and Biden stood up when he was talking about Israel, about the hostage crisis. That's the only time they stood up. Everyone else is standing up except for Biden and Harris for every single thing that they were standing up for. Yeah. The only time they stood up was for what? When the hostage crisis thing got released. That's the only time they stood up. And they didn't stand up after that, right? But the second speech, did you hear the second one? The second one was great. Yeah. It was super. It was just beautifully insulting. That's what he does. He's a showman. Look, he knows how to entertain people.
Oh, sorry.
He knows how to entertain people. And I loved it. I watched it again with my family, and we had. I wish we had popcorn, but we were munching on other things while we were watching because it was so fun. We paused it a few times to talk about certain things, just so we can learn some things too. But yeah, pure entertainment. That's all it was. It was just entertainment. You know what? You don't have to watch a movie or comedy.
Remember those Comedy Central roasts?
Yeah.
It was like a roast that Biden had to sit through and just watch.
Without mentioning his name. That's the beautiful part.
Yeah,
he didn't have to mention his name, but everybody knew what he was talking about. Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Rosa?
I didn't watch it.
Oh, no. Why? You have to watch it. You're going to have so much fun. If you want to learn how to insult somebody without mentioning their name, that's what you do.
Let's just play a snippet for Rosa.
Let's do it for Rosa. That's the only reason we're doing it.
Thank you very, very much. Vice President Vance, Speaker Johnson, Senator Thune, Chief Justice Roberts, Esther, yet more money is spent on it than any country anywhere in the world. And we have an education system that teaches our children to be ashamed of themselves in many cases, to hate our country despite the love that we try so desperately to provide to them. All of this will change starting today, and it will change very quickly. My recent election is a mandate to completely and totally reverse a horrible betrayal and all of these many betrayals that have taken place, and to give the people back their faith, their wealth, their democracy, and indeed their freedom. From this moment on, America's decline is over. Our liberties and our nation's glorious destiny will no longer be denied, and we will immediately restore the integrity, competency, and loyalty of America's government. Over the past 8 years, I have been tested and challenged more than any president in our 250-year history, and I've learned a lot along the way. The journey to reclaim our republic has not been an easy one, that I can tell you. Those who wish to stop our cause have tried to take my freedom and indeed to take my life. Just a few months ago in a beautiful Pennsylvania field, an assassin's bullet ripped through my ear. But I felt then, and believe even more so now, that my life was saved for a reason. I was saved by God to make America great again.
He had to put that in there. He was going to slip that in there.
Thank you.
Why was his wife dressed like Carmen Sandiego? That's all I thought of, Carmen Sandiego the whole time.
That is why each day under our administration of American
Kamala having to sit through this.
We will be working to meet every crisis with dignity and power and strength. We will move with purpose and speed to bring back hope, prosperity, safety, and peace for citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. For American citizens, January 20th, 2025 is Liberation Day.
He's making it as if Americans have been chains for 4 years, and now he's liberating them from Kamala
he goes
Baji.
on and on and on. It's funny. And
did you watch Chappelle's monologue, his recent monologue on SNL?
Yeah.
It was pretty legit.
That was legit. Yeah, he also mentioned
Palestine at the end,
Palestine as well.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can pull that up.
Yeah, in the LA fire.
Palisades, of course, is the area of LA that got burned down. So I like that connection at the end. Brilliant speaker. He's just he's a phenomenon.
Yeah. His presence is interesting because he can't get he's uncancelable, and the way he ran his life and conducted his money, you can't cancel him. He can say whatever he wants. A lot of lessons can be learned from that.
That's something I was thinking about when you were saying what can Muslims do. I thought two things: be smart and get strong. And strong can mean all kinds of different things, but the Prophet said, or the translation of a hadith, or the meaning of the hadith is, the strong believer is better than the weak believer. So whatever that means, strong in your deen, strong financially, stronger relationships, stronger acumen with other people, get strong and be smart, make smart moves, because you have to put yourself in a position where you can say what you want without fear of any type of backlash.
That's true.
You should put yourself in a position where you're like, all right. And when people do that, that's when you actually see things happening. Like Dave Chappelle, uncancelable. Some of these other people that we mentioned just now, uncancelable. And now they're not scared anymore. And all it takes is that crack in the dam. And when people see, oh, wait a minute, the fear of the crack of the sound of the crack of the whip was worse than the bite of the whip.
Allah.
Now all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay. People can start saying what they really think, but you got to put yourself in that position.
Yeah,
So be smart and strengthen yourself.
Hey, isn't it interesting that Allah tells us to be with those people who are truthful? Right? Kunu ma'as sadiqin.
Yeah.
There's something so beautiful about that. If you
whereas people like Trump and other politicians are with the people who are powerful, with the people like the Elon
powerful
Musk,
but deceptive,
Bezos and Zuckerberg, who was busy watching someone's assets. Let's just put it that way. Did you didn't see?
No. What I saw, which was even funnier, was Zuckerberg Elon Musk accidentally saluting twice. The Hitler salute twice.
Hitler.
He got so much crap for that. Why was he acting like such a lunatic?
No,
he's
such a weird on the spectrum, dude.
No, he is.
No, he's definitely on the spectrum. Like he gets excited and he does something like
ridiculous.
But
he did the salute twice towards the crowd and towards him. That's all people remember him for now. His stock dropped $8 today. I looked at the stock, Tesla stock.
No, he is. So these people have inserted themselves around Trump.
Yeah,
and we people who understand American politics know that this was always a government that's an oligarchy. It has rich people who are supporting the politicians and stuff. But now the left is kind of saying, because now Trump is more visible, right? Before, the smart politicians in the past, they wouldn't invite, the Warren Buffetts of the world and stuff to their inauguration, or maybe some of them did, but they just weren't very noticeable, right? Now it's like the world's richest people, like Elon Musk and Zuckerberg and Bezos. These guys are he's created his own oligarchs that he likes, who are going to be his pillar of strength, right?
Yeah.
Because money is an area from where power gets a lot of its legitimacy from, right? So he has these major power players in his corner, people who control information. More importantly, all three of them. Bezos has the Washington Post as well, if you remember,
and Meta and X.
And Zuckerberg has Meta and Instagram, and Musk has X. So he's controlling information and has a lot of money, keeping him up, right? Keeping him afloat and giving him legitimacy. So,
but now it's the entourage. Look what it tells the world. I'm surrounded by rich people.
Yeah.
All the richest people, the top 3 richest people, at least in the United States, are all with me, and we're going to make America great again. And people see that, and they're like, yeah, we're not going to be living poor anymore. Yeah. We're going to become rich. We're going to be surrounded by prosperity. It was a perfect setup.
Yeah, and people just, it's so sad because the people get impressed by this stuff, but these guys are there to... They create these fear tactics about immigrants coming in to take the job. Meanwhile, they're creating software that's taking real jobs away. Yeah. At least those other jobs that are coming in from overseas, whether there's H-1B programs or offshore people that they're getting in various countries across the world, these guys aren't giving any of them. When they're having artificial intelligence do your job. Imagine that, they're telling you we're worried about your concerns about those brown looking people, those savages halfway across the world who are taking jobs, or these people who are flooding your neighborhoods and stuff. But all in the meantime, they're working on their gadgets and their robots. And the Sam Altman of OpenAI, they're making new programs and new vectors of artificial thinking to remove people's jobs permanently. Like, you will be obsolete. A human being will be obsolete. And that in itself, like, people are so caught up, enamored by Trump and his BS about all this change he's bringing with the culture wars and stuff, but y'all are missing. You gotta step away. You ever have a kid, you have children, Sheikh, they come and shove something in front of your face and you're not focused in on it, but they're like, my son always says this, Baba, look at this stat from so and so player, he's got all these crazy numbers from his previous game, shove right in. I'm like, I can't see it, but I'm seeing that there's numbers there, but sometimes you have to kind of pull yourself away from it to understand the bigger picture. What's actually happening here is that these people are getting you to think about other things, about the culture wars and stuff like that, while they're busy making even more money, becoming even more powerful and popular, and they don't really care. You think this guy Elon Musk actually cares about that dummy in UK, Tommy Robinson or whatever? He doesn't actually care about him. It's just a way. It's just an avenue or a vector for him to find some marginalized group who will throw support his way because he's advocating for their cause. Same with that grifter Tate. That's why he's supporting. These guys are all like just finding marginalized people who are really, they're very energized base. They'll like really fight for you, right? They're vociferous, loud, be very helpful to the algorithm, right? Because the more you engage with your content, you need those kind of people. What's so funny?
No, I'm saying that's so crazy. In their life, human beings are only valuable for an algorithm for them.
Right.
How crazy is that, bro? Just makes the algorithm fluctuate. That's all we need them for. That's freaking insane, bro.
Like, people wouldn't care if Elon Musk fought for the LGBT people. Like, it's already been fought for. Now he has to find the other opposite end that feels marginalized. He can't fight for the Palestinians because there's like too much heat that comes from that, right? Because remember what happened when he did. In the beginning of the war, he did fight for them. He was not fighting, but he was kind of bringing some attention towards that cause. And then what did they do? They before the visit, before he had to pay the respects in Israel, they started the advertiser boycott on X.
That's right.
Disney and all these other companies.
Why did that seem so long ago? That was less
pulled
than a year
their
ago.
Advertisers. Yeah, they all pulled the advertisers, and they're like, and it was a concerted campaign that all these major companies said, "Hey, we're not going to advertise on X." So then they invited him to Israel, where he paid homage and respects and did the whole song and dance that the Israelis make every politician and visitor do. They visit the Wailing Wall and all the other things that mean so much to the Israelis, and give them a lecture on the Holocaust, and tell them, okay, you've been programmed correctly.
Be a good boy, no?
Now be a good boy. Tell them you've seen the light. And so who's the most easiest target now? Now that the LGBT stuff is kind of put aside, the whole gender confusion and stuff like that, and the DEI stuff has been kind of settled. It'll be funny at the end of this presidency who they will try to blame afterwards. Who's your next scapegoat?
That's a good
It'll probably be someone who just looks different from you. It'll probably be someone who, whether it's the Haitian migrants or the Indian migrants or Pakistani migrants in the UK, it's someone who just looks a little different from you. And they play off of this because human beings are naturally worried about something that just looks different, right? Something that's different is something that's not something I'm not familiar with.
The curiosity can be used to cause fear, yeah.
And so eventually the gig will be up, and by the time people wisen up to it, they'll be like, oh, well, we're all on universal basic income, living in these little homes that Tesla's making. Did you see those mobile homes that Tesla's making? They're like $10,000 little home that it's like a little pod that comes in. You can just settle it on your property, and that'll be everyone's life. You'll just be living on basic income. The few people who have jobs will survive. The rest will be in these little pods, and that's where it looks like it's headed. I see very little prospect left for human beings to still function after AI takes away so many job opportunities. There's actually very few areas where I don't see how AI, you could trust your things with AI yet, but
and that's why I think
that margin is closing really quickly.
No, that's why I think with the kid Sacho Balaji that was basically found dead and supposedly he committed suicide.
Give us a pretext for it.
Yeah, so there was this kid who worked with OpenAI, 26 years old. He supposedly, copywriting was one of it.
He helped create.
He helped create OpenAI and was responsible for a lot of the data. He was a champion in like programming in the world. I mean, like he won some like medals and stuff and like
really
Olympics.
Gifted guy.
Very gifted kid. He basically talked to New York Times about information that he has and shared some data with them that he has about OpenAI. He was found in his apartment dead with it was kind of sloppy the way it was done. Supposedly he committed suicide.
His food wasn't even eaten. He had ordered lunch. There was a struggle in the washroom.
The way the way the bullet penetrated his skull, it didn't even touch his brainstem. The autopsy report said that it hit his brainstem and he died instantly. Where the way the gun was held, a human being can actually kill themselves that way.
Yeah.
And it went down, didn't even touch his brain, and he died after a torture and struggle, and it wasn't the bullet that killed him. The family goes into the autopsy report and says, no, this wasn't a suicide. So there's a lot of cover-ups, a lot of crazy stuff that happened. You guys can watch, the episode on Tucker Carlson with his mom, with Sutra Balaji's mom. Is one of the most recent ones.
Yeah, it's a very powerful show.
Very powerful show. But the problem is that they just made it about copyrights, that a big portion of the information that OpenAI actually uses is copyrighted information, but that wasn't it. There was a lot of secrets, kind of like an Edward Snowden, that a type of information that he had about OpenAI, and he ended up basically killed.
He had it all on a thumb drive, and the thumb drive was missing.
Yeah. And the mother said something really interesting in the podcast. She said, like, whistleblowers, their lives matter, and they're being killed in our country. The two whistleblowers from Boeing died, last year or 2 years ago, and then this, and I mean, it's like it was so sloppy too. The killing with this kid, it was really bad. And she reached out to Donald Trump in that episode. Tucker Carlson was like reaching out to politicians during the episode, or a politician during the episode. I don't know what's going to come of this, but it's pretty crazy, because usually people would believe it and it would be finished. But now when you have somebody reaching out, Tucker Carlson is a friend of Donald Trump, and she's on the podcast and she's reaching out to him on the podcast. Look, a lot of these politicians are fragile. Their egos are fragile too.
Yeah.
Right? These people surround themselves with people that make them feel good about themselves.
Yeah.
And they defend themselves when something goes viral. They have to defend themselves. It shows you how fragile they are and how weak they are. To show you that the richest man in the world, because of his money and what Israel, the visit they had him do to Israel and get properly programmed and come back as a good little boy, shows you that money actually isn't power for him. That money is actually a weakness, right? The more money he had, the weaker he actually is now, the less he can do as far as Israel is concerned and speaking his mind. So money doesn't always buy you power, right? It can buy you options. But nonetheless, I think there's a lot to come regarding this OpenAI thing. At first, I thought this whole thing about robots and AI taking over human beings, I don't think it's at that degree, at least for right now, in the sense of I think
the trajectory we're headed, right?
The trajectory that we're headed, but the information and the practices that are taking place, we would never expect. I think that's what's to come, and then that's going to have like a bit of a tipping point, kind of like how Gaza did. But I think the amount and the type of people that are working in AI, in open AI, and the practices that they have, I think is going to surprise everybody. I think that's what this kid knew. Why else would they want to kill him? He didn't commit suicide. It's almost like two doctors to an autopsy specialist that this lady talked to said this wasn't a suicide at all. But the attorneys that were given to her were actually bought out too and said, no, it's a suicide, it's a suicide. She had to go to two attorneys. And they all had the same story. Wow. Yeah, it's crazy how the levels of this. So they're definitely hiding something really big. So same thing would happen to Edward Snowden. If he was here, they would have killed him. And he would have been declared suicide, and this kid couldn't escape, so he got it.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Yeah. Do we have anything else?
I think that's about it. What do you think, Reza? Did you miss anything?
Any other items?
Nope.
All right. folks, we have other shows coming up for you guys. We'll be out on the first week of February, but we will be back shortly after with some banging episodes. We got some really exciting guests lined up for you guys. I'm hesitant to release the names, but you'll see them and you'll be like really happy. Other than that, please, again, reminder for the campaign. Mustafa, Gunn, Imam, help them out. We'll see y'all next time. Link is in the episode description and in the comments. Actually, you can't put links in the comments, but it's in the episode description.
All right.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time. Assalamu alaikum.
I want their leader brought here. I want him brought to me. I want the revolution crushed.